I'm concerned because we're in Seattle, and for us, Canadians are a really big portion of our guests, especially we're almost like a drive-to destination for Western Canada. So, for example, there's this kind of yearly thing where the Toronto Blue Jays come to Seattle. There's a yearly series with the Mariners, and busloads of people come, and it's kind of like a thing. It's a ritual. Everybody loves it. And this year, which was last weekend, suddenly they're not coming. There's cancellations. It's a whole thing. The people love each other, but the governmental thing has kept everyone away, and it was in the local papers and everything. So literally all the restaurants in town were offering a one-to-one exchange. So if you come with a Canadian coin,
what?
You could get
That's what's
go get
stopping
clam
me
chowder
from coming.
1-to-1 for like,
Deana,
yeah,
I think
that's
know
how
that.
bad it's
You guys
gotten.
need to
So
market. And that's my dream is parody. Like, oh my
it's
God.
parody. Like I was surprised, like probably 20 different establishments. I don't know if it was only for the weekend of the series, but I hope it's not a harbinger for things to come over the summer. So I'm concerned. It's unknown at this time, but that uncertainty is real. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's unfortunate. And I don't see you guys coming up here because for me, it's the dollar. I could care less about what's going on out there. It's the dollar for me. It just stings so much when there's a markup of 40% plus your credit card adds a couple of points to it and it just stings. But I was thinking, oh, well, you guys could live like kings up here if you came, but we're not seeing a ton of traffic.
yeah.
American tourists coming up. And so my mother-in-law is an American and she's nervous about, she was like, well, like crossing the border sounds like a pain in the butt. Oh, yeah. I'm like, that's so unfortunate because we really should just, well, I won't say anything. I'm not going to say anything.
I'll just get along.
Yeah, we should just all get along.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. Yeah. This summer, a lot of people think here that it's going to be booming with Canadian travelers, and I'm not seeing that either. Sure, like where we are for Western Canada, we're probably like the destination for holiday, but I'm not seeing it in the short-term rental space. You know, we only have a small portion. I don't know, like if I did the math,
Yeah.
10% of my portfolio is short-term, and we're not seeing the traffic that you'd expect for domestic travelers. So I don't know. I think it's the economy too. I don't really know if it's the political so much so that maybe the news is saying, because for me, I'm like, it's the dollar. I'd be there in a heartbeat if the dollar was a little better.
Yeah. Well, it's just the uncertainty, I think, is the thing is people don't want to make plans yet until they know a little better how are things going to be.
Yeah. And how long is that going to take to figure out?
Good question.
Or how long does it take for everyone to get used to these new living conditions? You know, how long does it take for you to be like, but that's just the way it is?
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
I'm going to wait and see if I can just try to adapt to the trends, but try to see if I can identify them.
Yeah, for me, what I've been seeing is I've been talking to guests. I'm like, okay, well, what's your budget then? If this is too expensive, what are you willing to pay? And the prices are like 40%, 40% on average, what I'm seeing, lower than what we did last year, which was lower than what we've done in years past. So pretty drastic.
Yeah, that's the thing. And also, I'm trying to make up for the winter. So there you go.
That's a bummer. My calendar's starting to fill up, which feels really good, even though we have a few departures because the films kind of overlap a bit, even by 3 days, which is such a bummer because I'm like, I could almost do back to back, but I can't because we've got people leaving on Saturday, but we had a bunch of people come this past Tuesday, so those properties couldn't be back to back. So these ones that are leaving are going to be vacant. The ones that were vacant are now finally booked. But it feels good to look at my calendar now and see like lots of reservations because I was worried about this summer. Not that they're significantly valued reservations, but stuff is flowing.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying to you guys earlier that for Sonoma County, where we manage our properties, there are way fewer bookings than there were this time last year for the summertime. So we are reducing. Normally, we have it a 3-night minimum for weekends up until 10 days out. And then 10 days out, it automatically changes on PriceLabs to 2 nights, Well, for most properties, we've changed that to 30 days out now. And we've also reduced pricing. People are saying that PriceLabs is not giving great pricing information right now. I think that they may be using last year's data or something. I know that one of the hosts who is on a group chat that I'm part of had mentioned that a couple of weeks ago, the pricing, I forget the different colors that they use for, I think like dark blue means it's really popular or a strong time. The weekend had been marked as dark blue on PriceLabs, and then a week before that weekend, it changed to a light green,
Hmm.
meaning that there were very few people that were booking. So it's a difficult market right now to really assess how to price things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bummer because we lean on these tools' expertise. But when things are kind of volatile, especially when guests are so used to negotiating now, like I've never had to negotiate, and now I'm negotiating, like, well, what would you like to pay?
Yes, yeah,
What would you like to pay? I'll take whatever you're going to give me, almost.
we're getting a lot of that as well. Is
Yeah.
when you consider a discount. I mean, we've got it before, but not to the extent that we're getting that now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I'm happy to hear that. That's why I love talking to you guys because you can see the pattern that's happening globally. The economics here is, yeah,
Yeah,
we're so it's not just me. It's not my performance as a business operator, like this is what's happening. It makes you feel a little
Yeah,
bit.
getting that context is really helpful because it's not just you.
yeah. Do you guys subscribe to Air?
Not anymore.
Yeah, we used to, but it became extremely expensive because we cover the whole county, and they wanted to charge per town in the counties.
Mm.
It would have been prohibitively expensive. But I believe that AirDNA does provide pretty good data along those lines.
What I was finding is what I was predicting was what they were reporting. So I didn't feel like I needed it because I was hands on the ground getting all this information. Like it was matching what I was seeing.
Yeah.
So to me, it wasn't giving me any like hot tips or secret information that I couldn't feel in person.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I will mention to those people watching, and I mentioned this earlier in the group, and Michael, you said that you didn't know about this feature on Airbnb. I think that they introduced it not too long ago, and that is if you go into Airbnb calendar, and if you have multiple listings on Airbnb, you need to click on the individual listing calendar. So you can't do this from the group calendar; it has to be on the individual listing calendar. And then you click on individual dates in that calendar. On the right hand side, it will say similar listings. And a map will show up with similar listings to what you're listing and show you other properties and the nightly rate that those properties have been booked. So it really gives you some insight if your pricing is competitive or if it's too high or too low, just by doing that exercise.
Yeah, that's a tool I didn't even know existed, and that's really, really cool. I mean, that's pretty helpful at all. You can also see which ones haven't gotten booked and what those prices are, and then you can click into them and actually see the listing. I'm
Yeah.
gonna check that one out more thoroughly.
Except in Canada.
Yes, we decided that Deana needs a VPN to try to pretend
I'm
she's
gonna
from.
try it. I'm gonna try the VPN and see if I can get access to that tool.
Yeah, yeah. So some tidbits of information that hopefully will benefit those of you who are watching us.
What are you guys thinking about doing in September? Because we're all in the Western North America when things slow down, September, October. What's the plan? I'm actually considering like longer term student rentals for some of my properties because last winter was so slow. As of like October 31st, it was dead. It was the longest stretch of vacancies I've ever had, and I can't do another winter like that.
Yeah. My recommendation for those in the U.S. is to switch to Zillow in the wintertime or in the slow season if you're, depending on where you are, and do monthly rentals. So that's what we did for a number of our properties. And it worked out for 2 or 3 properties that we got monthly rentals. And one of them we actually transitioned to a full-time monthly rental.
Yeah, once I'm finished putting together this new listing that we're currently working on, I'm going to try a new thing, which is I'm going to get a little more aggressive with my pricing for September, October now. Just try to get an earlier start on getting those monthly discounts going and looking at some other platforms. There's this one platform that I'm on called Blue Ground. I got my first booking. They kind of specialize in month-long and longer bookings. It's interesting. And then Furnish Finder, I think, is changing their business model. They're getting away from travel nurses and into, what do they call them? But they've also changed their pricing structure too. So that's another interesting model that I'm looking at.
Which one was that, Mike?
Furnished Finder.
Furnished Finder, yeah.
Yeah. They've raised it. Yeah, it's gotten more expensive, but they're broadening it out into, I think they call it, what do they call it? Not monthly stay, but they're definitely broadening it out to sort of corporate relocations and all kinds of other things like that. But I'm going to try to start earlier with that strategy rather than just sort of waiting towards the end of the summer.
Yeah, yeah. Makes perfect sense. I agree.
Is there software that syncs up to, like, does Hostfully work with Zillow? Do you know?
I don't think that any of them, as far as I know, work with Zillow. I think
Okay.
that
So you just up.
you need to create a listing on Zillow. And the other problem with Zillow is that you can't adjust the monthly pricing. So, by month. So what we do is we'll put a certain price as, because you have one one price that you can put in for Zillow. So we'll put that price in, and then under the description, it'll say for January, February, and March, it's this amount. For April, May, and June, it's this amount. For July, August, and September, it's another amount. So that when people inquire about it, you can say, well, listen, if you want it for 4 or 5 months, that's fine, but it's a different price during those other months.
Okay.
The other thing with longer rentals, which a lot of people may not think about, is that it's a different type of model. So most of the time, if somebody is renting long term, they want to go and check out the property before they'll rent it from you. So you have to have feet on the ground that can show them the property, or at least give them access to the property for them to be interested.
Yeah, it is a totally different ball game, and I don't think a lot of people think about that. Even if you're hiring like a property manager, it's two different markets, long-term and short-term. And I don't think, from my perspective, if anyone's looking for like a 12-month rental, I don't think a short-term rental operator has the same skills to do long-term and vice versa. I don't think a long-term operator understands how in-depth the hospitality is for a short-term rental operator. So and short-term and midterm are, in my mind, the same thing. You still have to cater to these people. They're paying a premium. It's a totally different ballgame. It's not like, if there's something that goes wrong, you have to deal with it right away. Whereas a long-term rental, you can kind of be like, okay, well, the plumber's going to come on Monday, not Friday. And, there's no refunds for those types of things. And yeah, they want to see the property and pay less.
Well, the other part of that is that in many markets, including where we are in California, we cannot rent more than 30 days without having a realtor's license. So the way that we get around that is that we do a contract between the owner, because as an owner, you can rent more than 30 days. So the contract is actually between the owner and the renter.
Yeah.
The renter in that case pays the owner directly. And instead of us being paid and each month sending the money to minus our commission to the owners, we then invoice the owner each month for our management.
Your services. Yeah. Yeah. And then if there is an issue, does the guest still reach out directly to you? Or do they go to the owner and the owner then asks you to deal with it?
They reach out directly to us, and we have, as part of that rental, we have monthly cleanings that the renter pays for, and those are coordinated by us. And if there's anything wrong, if there's a plumbing issue or an electrical issue or whatever it is, they contact us and we handle that.
Good. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully we don't have to do too much long term.
Yeah.
It's not our.
It is a good idea for the slower seasons. I would definitely recommend creating an ad on Zillow. And Zillow seems to be the main platform, at least that we've seen. You mentioned Furnished Finder, Michael, and I think for many people that can work. But what we found was that it doesn't accommodate the higher priced. It's mostly more budget related bookings that you get from Furnished Finder.
Right, because they have a max filter, right, of like $3,500 or something.
Yeah,
So
but they're changing their whole sort of orientation, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They have a whole new leadership structure, I think, and they're I watched a webinar. I wouldn't be surprised if you see more changes coming from that direction.
Yeah, we need Airbnb either needs to open that up a little bit better, or we need to find a comparable, because we need the variation in pricing per month. That's just the way it goes.
We do.
Well, if Airbnb dropped their service fees a little bit for the longer bookings, that would help.
Yeah. Agreed. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem like it's in the cards. It's wishful thinking, Michael.
Well, hey, I'm an optimist.
Yeah.
Can't you?
Yeah.
I'm an realist. Okay. On that note, I think it's a wrap. And thank you for tuning in today. We'll see you on the next episode of The Real Hosts of Short-Term Rentals. And please share and like this episode. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye for now.